Hey everyone! So today, we're diving into the amazing, kinda messy, and honestly sometimes just plain weird world of accidental inventions. You know, those game-changing discoveries that weren't planned out in some sterile lab, but were stumbled upon by people who were paying attention. And as you're about to see, it's about so much more than just blind luck.
Mark Twain really hit the nail on the head with this one, didn't he? When you look back, the whole history of innovation is just filled with these moments of pure, unexpected discovery. It kind of makes you think that the biggest leaps forward happen when we're not even trying to leap. All right, let's jump right in with a classic story. So picture this. It's 1945. The war is over, and an engineer named Percy Spencer is at his job at Raytheon. He's working with this piece of radar tech called a magnetron. It's basically a super high-powered tube that generates microwaves. This is serious focus work, all for a very specific purpose.
But then, something weird happens. He's standing near the machine and feels something strange. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out what used to be a candy bar, now just a completely gooey mess. Now, let's be honest, most of us would just be annoyed, right? But Spencer, well, he had what we now call a prepared mind. He didn't get mad, he got curious.
He put 2 and 2 together instantly. The microwaves from that magnetron must have melted his snack. So he decides to test it. He gets some popcorn kernels, puts them near the machine, and yep, they start popping all over the lab. So this wasn't just about a messy pocket. This was the birth of the microwave oven. It's the perfect example of how a simple mistake can literally become a breakthrough.
What happened to Percy Spencer actually has a name, and it's the big idea behind this whole explainer, serendipity. But to really get why it's so powerful, we need to be really clear about what it is, and, maybe more importantly, what it isn't.
And the word itself has this awesome origin story. It was coined way back in the 1700s by a writer named Horace Walpole. He just read a fairy tale called The Three Princes of Serendip, where the heroes were constantly making these amazing discoveries by both accident and cleverness, finding things they weren't even looking for. And that combination, right there, accident plus wisdom, that's the secret sauce. And this is where it gets really important to draw a line. Pure luck, you know, like winning the lottery, is totally passive. It just happens to you. But serendipity, that's an active sport. It's the accident, plus your observation, plus having the insight to see its potential. Percy Spencer didn't just get lucky that his candy bar melted, he was actively curious about why. Which brings us to probably one of the most famous quotes in all of science, from Louis Pasteur. This just nails the whole idea of serendipity. Chance, the accident, can happen to anyone, but it only favors the prepared mind, the mind that's curious, that's knowledgeable, and that's open enough to see an opportunity where everyone else just sees a mistake.
Okay, so with that idea locked in, serendipity plus a prepared mind, let's look at a few more incredible examples where a oops moment ended up changing our lives forever. You're going to start to see a real pattern here.
All right, let's talk about the Post-it note. Back in 1968, a scientist at 3M named Spencer Silver was on a mission to create the strongest glue in the world, but he failed, big time. Instead, he made the exact opposite, this super weak glue that you could stick and unstick without leaving any gunk behind. It was a complete failure for what he was trying to do. For years, this stuff just sat on a shelf, a solution without a problem, until a coworker, Art Fry, got fed up with his bookmarks falling out of his church songbook. He remembered the weird weak glue, put it on a piece of paper, and boom, the Post-it note was born.
This quote from Sir Alexander Fleming is the perfect setup for one of the most important accidents in all of human history. So it's 1928, and Fleming, who is famously a little bit messy in his lab, comes back from vacation. He finds one of his petri dishes is contaminated with mold, but instead of just tossing it, his prepared mind notices something incredible. Wherever the mold was, the bacteria around it was dead. He wasn't looking for a bacteria killer, but that's exactly what he found. The result? Penicillin. It completely changed modern medicine.
Now here's a fun one you might not know. In 1943, a naval engineer named Richard James was trying to figure out how to use springs to keep sensitive equipment stable on moving ships. Well, he accidentally knocked a coil of wire off a shelf and just watched it walk across the floor. In that little moment of serendipity, he didn't see a tool for a ship, he saw a toy. But wait, the story gets better. Years later, soldiers in Vietnam found a totally new use for the Slinky. They would toss one end over a tree branch and use it as a makeshift extendable radio antenna. How cool is that? A happy accident that got repurposed again for a critical need. And honestly, the list just goes on and on. The potato chip, legend has it, it was invented by a chef who was trying to annoy a customer by slicing potatoes paper thin. The implantable pacemaker? That happened when an engineer grabbed the wrong part for a heart recording device and created a circuit that perfectly mimicked a human heartbeat. And safety glass was discovered when a chemist dropped a glass flask that happened to have a plastic coating on it and noticed it cracked but didn't shatter. Every single one started as a mistake or an annoyance that a prepared mind turned into something iconic.
So these stories are obviously fascinating, but what does it all mean for us today? I mean, in this super planned, data-driven world of startups and innovation, does having a happy accident story actually give you an advantage? Well, some new research says, yeah, it really does.
So this is the exact question that a 2024 study from Iowa State University wanted to answer. When you're an entrepreneur and you're pitching your big idea to get funding, is it better to tell a story of deliberate, methodical planning, or do you lean into that messy, accidental aha moment? And you have to see this data. The researchers looked at a ton of crowdfunding campaigns, and there was a clear winner. The projects that were pitched with a story of serendipity, that story of an accidental discovery, they raised way more money than the projects that were presented as the result of just a straightforward, deliberate plan. So why is that? Well, the study found that we actually perceive these accidental inventions as being more innovative. There's something about the surprise and the novelty of the story, the inventor connecting dots no one else saw, that makes the product itself seem more original, more brilliant. It basically frames the inventor as a genius, and that is a story people want to invest in.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. We've seen how these accidents, when they meet a prepared mind, can literally change the world, from our kitchens to our hospitals. And we've even seen how telling these stories can make an idea more powerful. So what's the big takeaway for us?
First, remember that serendipity isn't just about getting lucky. It's an active skill. It's about paying attention. Second, we have to start reframing what failure means. What looks like a mistake might actually be the solution to a problem you haven't even thought of yet. And finally, if you're out there trying to create something new, don't hide the messy, accidental parts of the story. That happy accident could be your single most powerful tool.
And that really brings us to the final thought. We're all going to make mistakes. Things are not always going to go according to plan. The real question is, are we going to get annoyed by the mess, or are we going to look a little closer with a prepared mind, ready to find the incredible opportunity that might be hiding inside?